Hello everyone, so we are going to get on with this module. Now I've kept this build a secret for as long as I could, hopefully right up to the eve of it going on display. In fact, the build as it is right now, it is the 17th of May 2025, and you will have already seen this board in a previous video where I ran the Ruston engined 37.9 and it was turned 180 degrees. But yeah, I'm going to start on the scenery today. So the track is already in place. I've just placed a piece of masking tape over because I know this is going to get messy and I do not want to be doing some heavy cleaning of the track afterwards. I'd rather clean off the residue from masking tape and glue from the final scenery when the ballast goes down than plaster. So what are we going to be doing? Well, first of all, you can see this board, it has been screwed from the underside, has been glued as well, and that is going to be the base for the windmill, which will be coming on in a little while. In fact, you may get to see that in a separate video, the build of that. But the placement of the windmill will be going right here. And to fill in the scenery, we're going to be gluing some cardboard strips. Now, I've got a whole bunch of these cut, and I was going to just grab a hot glue gun and just slap them all down. But in typical fashion, I can't find my glue sticks. Now you can guarantee that later on this evening I'll just randomly find them, but I want to get on now, so I'm going to be using some good old woodworking PVA. I don't know what the difference is between woodworking PVA and craft PVA, but despite what the bottle says, it is woodworking PVA in here. I bought a 5 litre from B&Q and we are going to get started. So I'm going to find my scissors, which are right here, and just going to measure down. So I reckon some strips about that long would do us perfectly for this early bit. And cut it into strips about a centimetre wide, just to give you guys an idea of what we're working with. And what I'm going to do is start in this corner, put a dab of glue there, dab of glue there, and fill in that hole with glue as well, and just simply stick that on like that. And then I'm going to come along, get a dab of glue on there, dab of glue on there. It doesn't matter which side you glue realistically, but I'm just going to attach that like that. And wait for that to bite. And of course it's going to pop up fine. But essentially all I want to do is just go along and place these strips. It may actually be better to do it the other way up, on the non-glossy side, he says. But the idea is that we're going to have some strips all the way along, and then we get a longer piece, and that will feed in and out and be woven all the way along the 3 sides. So I'm going to go do that and come back to you when it's done and we're ready for the next stage. Well, it is the morning after the day before, and I gave up pretty quickly with PVA and grabbed a glue gun and very quickly knocked out all the cardboard supports. So next stage is going to be to cover this. Now I did consider going the papier-mâché route, and the reason I've kind of gone against that is I have a resin pour to do on this whole section here, and I don't know how well that is going to react with papier-mâché. And resin, if you guys aren't already aware, I'm sure you are, gets rather warm whilst it's curing, and I foresee papier-mâché maybe giving up and allowing lots of leakage. So when I get to that point, I am going to have to consider that, and to that end I do actually have in this whole area a bit of landform still to create. I'm going to build up some layers of foam, I think, and then cover over that. But for now, for this bulk part, I have got some good old Hobbycraft, not sponsored, because why would they? But yeah, some plaster moulding roll, and it's quickly come to my attention that I don't have enough. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this and see where we get to. So immediately upon opening the pack, I can see that this is already dropping dust everywhere. So what I'm going to do is just lay it down first of all, so I can get a rough idea of how much I need for this first section, and then using a pair of scissors, simply gonna cut it off. And the instructions state that it's as simple as dipping it in some water and then laying it down. Well, let's give that a go. Now I've got a 3-meter long section here, so this should be quite fun. Now I'm just gonna run it through. I have a large ice cream tub of water, so I'm just gonna do that, lay it down, and I'm told it goes off quite quickly, so I am rather cognizant of that, and just stretch that out, and there we go. Now I will need to build up multiple layers of this, but actually that's wider than I first considered, so yeah. Right, I'm going to pause this because I'm wearing gloves which have got wet from this first application, and like an idiot I haven't cut all the strips beforehand, so I'm going to do that now and I'll be back with you in a second. So having made all my cuts, I've roughly laid out the bandage where I imagine it's going to be needed, and I'm going to go ahead and apply. that's that section done. So we'll just rotate you around and take care of this last section down this end. And to have enough left just to do second one on this end, which I'm going to try and bring that down. Tease it out. Because whilst it doesn't have to be a billiard table smooth, it would be nice to get it somewhat there. And there we have it. That's the next stage. Now, this does say that you need to allow it 24 hours to dry, but I need to go and buy 2 more packets of this stuff because realistically I can see that with just that much left from one pack, I want multiple layers because I want to make an absolutely rock solid shell. So with that, I'm going to go and let this dry, and next time you see me, I should have all of this fully plastered. Unfortunately, at this stage, it appears I have some missing footage. No idea what happened to it. This video has been going on for months now, so I imagine it got deleted by accident a very long time ago. But as you can see, at this stage, I have applied some filler all over the board, added a couple of foam islands as mentioned in the previous section that I was going to do. That has now been done, and when we get back to the next footage, you'll see that I've applied some paint. Well, we are back on the model build now. It's been about a week since I last filmed anything, and some changes have been made. So as you can see, first of all, it is a multi-tonal brown. I've done that. It's had a few coats of the plaster bandage, and then I just got some polyfiller over the top just to try and smooth it out a bit. Not completely successful, I will admit, but it'll all be hidden by scenery by the end. Got a couple of islands in just for interest. The inspiration for this, it does have some landforms mixed in. It's not all one sort of swampy lake. So anyway, what are we doing today? Well, in this part of the video, I'm going to be laying some gravel on here, and I did go and get these from Geek Gaming Scenic. So we've got an arid earth and we have a riverbed. So base ready. So the idea is you just stick it down, but obviously on a board this size I'm going to need about 60-70 pounds worth of bags. So they're going to be around the edges, most visible. The majority of it is going to be covered with this. So from Pets at Home, you can go to other ones. Now, it is all of one size and colour. The colour I'm not too worried about. We can sort of get some colours and splash some paint around afterwards. But getting a base is the most important thing to me. Now, we do have one other product that I'm just going to have to play around with, which is the AK Interactive Muddy Ground. So again, it's for dioramas. You can probably see around here, I've messed around with some sawdust and paint with a bit of glue mixed in, just to sort of experiment with laying that down. It's given us a nice texture. It'll be interesting to see what this does in comparison. So I'm going to need an old brush for this. One old brush. And I'm just going to experiment with this. Now, I've seen people's results with this. Have never tested it myself. Oh, that's something. Let's get you in there. Looks kind of green on the camera, but get the camera to focus in on that stuff. But it is just sort of a liquidy, muddy texture stuff. So just gonna apply some of this around, just to give that kind of a little bit of relief and detail to these sides. I have to say, looking at it, apart from the colour and smell, it is given a very similar thing to what my sawdust method did. I'm conscious of the fact I didn't show you the sawdust method. Honestly, I didn't know if it was going to work at all, if it was going to stick. So I figured, let's not show it off. But if people do want to see me do that, I can make a little 5-10 minute video of just making sawdust based mud for you guys. I don't mind. Yeah, I enjoy making videos that people want to watch. I'm not all about being a massive YouTuber and going after whatever the latest trend is. That boat sailed many years ago. But yeah, if there's something you would like me to document on a video, we can do it. We can create a little diorama board just of these little things. I am planning to do a basic servicing video, and I know that there's a lot of them out there. But these are all people who know what they're doing, have years of experience servicing locos. So I thought it might be fun just to see how someone who, despite having quite a large collection, has done minimal servicing to locos in his life. I don't think I've ever pulled a lemur loco apart to service it, for example, which is shocking and disappointing, really, considering how many of them I have. But yeah, this stuff seems to be going on. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little pause here and show you the results in a little while. With a few minutes of dabbing around, I've managed to get some of this stuff on, and we'll take a closer look around. Just, let's say, you can see it's still wet, very much wet, but the overall effect, and I'm not a fan of that bit. Let's do that. Yes, the overall effect is not that dissimilar to what I achieved with the sawdust. And these are very crude close-ups, and I just noticed a fly walking through. Unfortunately, it is summer. That is the first fly I've actually seen inside, but yes. So the next step is going to involve this guy. So other brands are available, but it's just a heavy-duty spray adhesive. And I'm just going to use a piece of cardboard as a shield and cover the base, and then we can try and get some of this gravel on. So let's get you back in the holder. Apologies for the camera movements there, but we're in. So I'm going to crack open a window, put you on a little time lapse to zoom through it, and yeah, I'm going to apply some glue and some gravel. Okay guys, so time has moved on a little bit and the module has changed a little bit. Unfortunately, I did want to record more of the process, but well, life's got in the way and just general busyness, so kind of up against it time-wise. So We've jumped forward a couple of stages. I have now put a barrier on here, and as you can see, we've got some reeds appearing. Quite a few of them. There's still quite a bit to do, sort of round here, and I don't. Oh yes, the camera is picking. So along there, and then sort of down here, and I do want to intersperse some more of the green reeds. So still lots to do. And in all honesty, I was hoping, and I still am, although it won't be finished, it'll be in a partly done stage. The plan is that this is going to its first exhibition on Saturday, which means I am leaving to head down on Friday afternoon, which in realistic terms means this needs to be in the van or in the car Thursday evening, and it's Monday evening, and I've got a very large resin pour to do and to cure. So yeah, lots to do and so little time to do it. I mean, the resin's supposed to take 3 to 4 days of curing. I don't have that, so I'm just going to have to sort of position it by a window, hope that the sun we have this week will help with the curing stage, and yeah, it'll be what it'll be. So anyway, what have I been using to make the reeds? Well, I went and purchased one of these, which is a very large 600mm long stiff brush. So kind of thing you'd use to do your patios and stuff. And as you can see, it's gradually been getting a haircut, which is destroying the pair of scissors. But as you can see, I'm going down in stages, and that gives us what you can see here, that height. Now it may be that those reeds are still a bit high, but the plan is get the pour done, get that settled, and see how we go. Now the problem is there's probably 4 hours roughly of work done on the reed so far, and the reason is because you cut a piece off, that takes you about 45 seconds to a minute, and I had started with a pot of glue and I was dabbing them in and then sticking them on the layout, and that was taking forever to dry. So you do one bunch and you couldn't do the next bunch, you had to move on. And then I realized that some of the bunches I were doing too small, so they hadn't got the support to stand up and they were falling everywhere. So then I changed tack and resorted to putting a blob of glue down, and then once that blob of glue was down, sticking the reed material into it, which has not been unsuccessful, but the success is, yeah, I still had a situation where quite a few have fell over, and because it's so warm and muggy, I was having them stick to my fingers, so then I'd pull away and they're stuck to my fingers and so on. But anyway, don't think I'm going to be able to show you the process of cutting it off. I mean, you've got an idea of how to cut it, I'm sure. It's not rocket science. So I'm just going to cut a bunch off, and let's just go for this spot in here. If the glue wants to play ball, helps if you open it, Nick. So just a blob of glue like so, and then it's a case of pushing and holding for at least 30 seconds and hoping that when you take your hand away, you don't have too many of them fall over. because when they fall over, you then have to go and pick them out. And if they've got glue on them and dry and stick, then you have all sorts of problems. I mean, there's a few. See, so do have a pair of tweezers on hand just for manipulating some. And that's going to be a painful one. Because the problem is, you can pull the odd one out, but if they start then pulling whole bunches out, you've got all sorts of problems. But anyway, the green ones. So I purchased this bag here. So it is a Woodland Scenics product. It is the Field Grass Light Green. And I do have another pack of it somewhere. But in my rushing around, I've misplaced it on one of the shelves somewhere. So it'll be there, and you can guarantee I'll find it once I've finished. But anyway, that's where we're at right now. The next video will, for better or worse, be the pour. Or the next part of the video. You get what I mean. Okay, so it's been about 21 hours since I finished sticking my reeds in. Kind of happy with what I've got, but I do realise if I want to take this to the show this weekend, I need to do the bit I'm dreading most, which is the resin pour. Now I went and I purchased a 2-part epoxy resin from Amazon. Comes in nice big litre bottles like this, and it's a 1-to-1 mix. And I read thoroughly through the instructions and what have you, and then I watched a whole bunch of videos, read through again, and for better or for worse, I'm going to do it slightly different to what the instructions say. Now we've got a 40-minute work time with this. However, I'm not going to follow the instructions to the letter, because what it says is to mix equal parts of A and B and then add your colouring. Pretty much every video I've seen says take part A, which is thus, and pour that into your receptacle for mixing, which in my case is a nice big 2-litre here, and then mix your colour in. Once you've got that right, you can add in part B, which is what's going to make this cure. So that's your hardener, part B. Is it going to go right? Is it not? I don't know. I'm really nervous about this. I've not done a resin pour before. But if you just sit back and never try anything new, you're never going to learn anything. And worst comes to the worst, well, I'll work out something. So I'm going to go ahead and do the resin pour, and then I'm going to add some colours, which my friend has very generously donated to me. So we have a nice green here. We have a caramel. We have, I guess it's a primrose blue. I'm not sure, but it's certainly a blue. And then we've got a nice standard brown. Now the idea for this is I want it to be a murky sort of water. So technically, did I need to go to all the effort of that graveling on the base? Probably not, but at the same time, it's done, and the areas where that is going to show, yeah, I did want that. So anyway, let's stop talking and let's get going. So it's worth mentioning, I have had these sat in a nice warm bath, not a literal bath, but nice bucket of warm water for about 45 minutes, and I kept checking, so it is nice and warm. One thing everyone agrees on is make sure your resin's nice and warm, because it will flow better and mix better. Now, handily, this does have on it a marker for one-to-one mixing. This is just a jug that I got from my workplace, funnily enough, because we supply to the automotive and industrial sectors for paints and consumables. So I'm going to go up to the all the way up to the 5. So that has used most of a bottle actually, but I'm okay with that. Right, so thing with these colours is, if I step around here, not to add too much at once. So that's is it going to come out? Okay. Don't want to squeeze it too hard. I don't know if I have to pierce that first. Try another bottle. I'm sure some of this has been opened before. Right, yes it has. So let's just add a few drops of that. I reckon these are sealed. So bear with me a second. Right, so yes, these are brand new bottles, so they just need uncorking, so to speak. So just covered my drill in nice green dye. So, right, where's that other one? The brown. Right, there we go. Give that a squirt. Let's say I'm just going to go slow and steady with this, because I can always add more. I can't take away. And already I can see I will need more. The crucial thing that I have learned is you have to go slow with your stirring. Right, let's get some of this blue happening. Okay, or not. Right, quite a bit of that blue actually. Right, I'm going to go ahead and mix this, try and get an acceptable colour for my murky water, and I will be back with you shortly. Okay, so it's looking a little greener than I'd like, if I'm honest. Let's just put a bit more of this caramel in. See me treating my friend to some replacement ones. Incidentally, she makes resin jewelry as a hobby, which is how she has the inks and she's the one that's encouraged me to give this a go, actually. So yeah, that's looking very murky indeed. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is add in our hardener. I want to be careful with this because I don't want to introduce loads of bubbles, but I do want to get it mixed thoroughly. Now, it does say on the instructions and on the advert for this stuff that it's designed purposely to not cause many bubbles, but the proof will be in the pudding, as they say. So what I'm doing now is just taking this up to the 5 mark here, because we started at this 5 mark, and as you can see it's 1-to-1 mix, so we take it up to there. And this should reduce the opacity a bit, so should make it a bit more see-through. Not that I'm overly concerned about that at this stage. As I say, I wanted a nice murkiness, so again, I'm just going to spend the next 5-10 minutes giving this gentle stir, make sure it's thoroughly mixed whilst not introducing any bubbles, and then comes the big moment, the pour. Right, the moment has come. So I've given that a good thorough mixing through, possibly even longer than I really needed to be honest, but I'm just so wary at this stage and I want it all to go well. You know the drill. So I've been mixing, but possibly a bit too long, but no more. Right, I do, as part of the kit, and you'll notice I am wearing gloves for this because it could get messy. I do not want this on my hands. But yeah, you get these silicone cups as part of the kit, and just going to use that to aid the pouring, because trying to pour from this big 2-litre tub is going to be a nightmare. In fact, I'm envisaging some issues just getting it into that jug. He says it actually poured okay. Right, let's not rest on our laurels. Let's go ahead and do the first pour. So, momentous occasion, 8:30 PM on the Tuesday evening, and I'm just going to start to pour. Now what's going to follow once I've got all this done is some anxious monitoring for at least an hour and a half to make sure that this doesn't all leak out. And I have some confidence in what I've done with regards to the barrier, but it's a confidence of I think it's okay, but I've never done it before, so not 100% confident. So just going to pour away. This is self-leveling. A bit concerned because it is so warm in here, but in theory we've got a good 15 minutes of working time still. So right, and I've just noticed a drip already. That's a worrying sign. Right, let's get the rest poured, and then if need be I can come along and just patch any seals with hot glue quick. So anyway, I'm going to cut it here, do the pour, and see where we're at the end. Okay, so a couple of months has passed since the previous video on the build, and like I say, lots has changed, but it hasn't really. So I've gone ahead and I wasn't quite happy with where the water levels had come up quite far from the reed, so gone and put in some extra mud products. Not completely happy with how they look, but it's fine, because ultimately it's going to all have static grass on top, so it's not going to make much difference. And I've gone ahead and ballasted the line. Now there are a couple of spaces here and here, and there's a little bit there where unfortunately, as I left this for a day or more and then came along and went to turn it up and clear out the ballast, those bits broke out, and unfortunately that's what happens. I am using a watered down PVA mix. I know you can buy Woodland Scenic's ballast bond and so on and so forth, but that gets pretty expensive pretty quick when you consider that I have a curve board to build back there, I have another board to build, so I'd end up using about 50 quid's worth. As it happens, this one was made with matte Mod Podge, which I've heard is a great way of doing it. And I have to say, it's no better than just your ordinary builder's DIY PVA. So, next thing, obviously I'm going to go and patch those up. You don't need to see that. If you want to see how to ballast, I have covered it in the previous build of that layout right there, so go check that out if you want to see how I ballast. But I'm going to get on with the ballasting, and next is going to be static grass, which is going to start with this. So if it focuses, FL635 from Woodland Scenics. We do mandate, similar to the ballast, in the NCMA we have a guidebook and it says the type of ballast to use on the main line, and also on the edges of the board what static grass to use. What you use on the rest of the layout is completely up to you. So on these islands, for example, it's going to be something different. All around here is going to be different, and the big surprise is going to be what goes here. But show is fast approaching, and I don't know if it's going to be built in time, so we're going to have to see. I may just have to scenic that bit and wait until the NEC show. But talking to you guys isn't getting it done, so I'm going to go ahead, touch up that ballast, get the static grass done on the edge, and then we're going to experiment, because I got these from Temu. Under the light, they look rather sparkly, but I'm hoping with this dead grass put in. Now these were just a couple of quid for the, well, 6 bags actually, because you get a snow effect one as well. So I figured I'd give them a try. If not, I do have some other static grasses which are different lengths, shades, so I'll make a mix of all of them and stick them in. But yeah, next time you see this, hopefully we'll be on to the next stage and I can show you what we look like. So guys, quick update. This is just over 24 hours later from the previous video, and yeah, it's a Forester green. Apologies for the shadowing. It's getting dark rather early this time of year, and yeah, the light isn't very helpful. So yeah, as you can see, not done cleanup. You can see some glue still drying around it, rather large blob there, but that's fine. I can put some bushes in there, and as you can see, the track and everything hasn't been cleaned off yet, but it's all good, it's all fine, because once it's dry, I mean, if I do this, as you can see, it all sweeps up, and I will be able to reuse that again in another project, which will probably be the boards over there. But yeah, so this is coming on rather well. The Temu stuff, probably still see it here. It's rather sparkly. And I have applied another layer over the top of this here. Now, a lot of this is going to end up with scrubland on top, so try not to read too much into it, but we are getting close to the deadline for this being at the show. And that brings us to the next thing, which is what goes here. And, well, as you'll probably know by now, it's a windmill. Does anybody put it all together? Like, if I hadn't shown off the final project, would you have guessed what I was building? I don't know. 50-50 on that, and I'm building the module. So anyway, as mentioned previously, I do have a nice selection of grass turf. Some of these, like these ones, are eBay ones. These ones, swamp turf, I got from Model Shop. It's actually primarily a wargaming shop. It's literally 3-minute walk, if that. Literally, I go out my front door, up to the end. There's an alleyway. I walk through there, onto an industrial estate, turn left, and the shop's right there. So probably 2-minute walk. And yeah, I can get all these wonderful products from there. The reason I've got the Temu ones though is I wanted to try them. Although the psychedelic grass hasn't really worked out, there are some good products like these tufts, and I did get a pack of 100 passengers, some seated, some standing, and some are terrible. Like, they have 5-foot legs, some of them. They're just ridiculous. Other ones, yeah, not too bad. The standing vastly outnumber the seated, so I do need some more seated ones because they are going to go in some of my passenger coaches, but that's a completely different project. Hopefully one that we can tackle before the NEC, but if not, we don't. All right, I'm starting to waffle, so this is the update. The next one will probably be looking at the windmill, and we'll go from there. Okay, welcome to my makeshift workbench, which is actually on the floor right now. Yeah, the module is taking up my kitchen table, or not kitchen table, dining table. And so, yeah, the windmill. So what we're building is this. So that should give you an idea of how old this kit is. And I'm already part of the way through the build. And the reason for that is, quite honestly, because, well, there was a lot of flash to remove, and that's kind of boring. And also, I wanted to get some colour on. I didn't know how it's going to take. Now, this is really cruel. Close up. There are some issues, but on the whole, the colour's good. Kind of where I want it. Now, this top bit does need to go into a grey, and as you can see by rattling around, what I do to paint stuff is I just put a blob of hot glue on, half a skewer, and then that allows me to poke that into a cardboard box or some foam or something just to hold it while it dries. Now, these windmill blades are going to need some dry brushing with some white just to highlight those. And we have the main body here, which is partially assembled. I'd say the reason I've done that is I want to go ahead and begin the assembly. I want to do some mock-up, and I also want to get some paint down because I am fast running out of time. So we've got some doors here which go in the slots here, and then there's some windows that go in frames above, and then we've got the window frames here which will pop in here, and then essentially what that does is that goes in there, and that gives us our front. Now, I'm not building this kit completely as intended by the manufacturer. So if you look, I've drilled a rather large hole in there. There was a tiny hole, but there's a larger hole now, and that's so I can feed some wires through, because I am going to motorize this. And unfortunately I don't have the motor to hand right now, but it's slow turning. I think it's either 8 RPM or 15 RPM, something like that. So really slow, just what you want for a windmill. So with that said, let's shake up some paint. I'm going to use this Slanesh grey on the grey roof panel here and see how we get on. What with work and whatnot, and the show is, as I'm recording this, I need to be packing up and heading off tomorrow. That's how down to the wire we are. So yeah, it's been a really fun build. As you can see, we've got our lovely windmill working, and give you a run by of the scenery in all its cruel close-up horror. With the naked eye, I think it looks quite good actually. I'm happy with it. It's not an exact replica of the opening scene from the Thomas the Tank Engine series, but it's close enough. It gives that feel. It's got the major elements, which is, if I zoom back here, so you've got the water, you've got the reeds, you've got the windmill, of course, going round. Do need to get a little model push bike to put by the door, but you know, that can come. The crucial thing is, it is complete, and it's what I was planning. You can just see Outwell Basin hiding behind there. So yeah, really interested to know what you guys think. Apologies that this video is gone on for an hour, but it's a big involved build doing all of this, and yeah, I wanted to share as much as I could. Honestly, I could have, if I was doing it again and I had the time, I'd have took you through every step and made probably a full video series out of it. But I think we covered the crucial elements, like how I made the reeds. The scatters and stuff, there's nothing major in it. So first and foremost is static grass, which along here, and up at this other end. In the NCMA, we have a particular type of grass to use, so I've used that. And then we come along, and then you kind of can use pretty much whatever you like in the middle, which is what I've done. I'm not a fan. This seems a bit bluey to me, this grass, but it's okay. And then this is just some chinchilla grit for the path. You can see it's not actually dry there. Doesn't show up as damp on camera as what it actually is in real life, but I'm not going to be tipping this, and it's dry enough that it'll just continue drying. So yeah, by the time the public see it on Saturday, it'll be dry. And yeah, this is just some scenic flock and powders and stuff. And the key thing I found, I do kind of like these things. These are actually Temu, believe it or not. But yeah, the idea and the key thing is don't rely on one product. Mix it up, get a feel, darting various products around and see how it looks. I'll be honest, I haven't looked at it from this side yet. So this is what the public will see. I've not looked at it from this side, shockingly. But yeah, so that's a build. That's my little homage to Thomas the Tank Engine and 80th anniversary. If you've enjoyed this, let me know down in the comments. And yeah, I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.